So you've been sued. It's not a good feeling, but the most important thing is don't ignore it. In this video, we're going to talk about what to do if you've been sued. I'm Mark Lyda from Lyda Law Firm. Let's get started. The first thing to note is that as a general rule, you've only been sued if you actually receive personal service of process. In other words, someone comes to you and says, "Hey, are you your name?" You say yes, and then they hand you the documents. If you received something in the mail, unless there's a specific court order saying you can receive it in the mail, that is not good enough to sue you. Your loved ones, your relatives who live with you can accept service of process on your behalf. So if somebody shows up at your door and hands something to your husband or wife who lives with you, or your parents who live with you, or whatever, in most states that will count as service of process. If you are a business owner and someone from your business is served, like a vice president of the company, any officer of the company, typically that will count as service of process. But if you receive something in the mail, it could be fake, it could be insufficient, or if there's a court order saying that you can be served by mail, it could actually be a lawsuit. So I recommend that if you're in any doubt, the most important thing is to not ignore it. So the first thing you should do is consult a lawyer if you are sued. You never know how bad it can be. And I have seen people try to ignore lawsuits and it just doesn't work out well. What do you think is going to happen by just ignoring a lawsuit? Well, let's talk about that. Here's what happens if you ignore a lawsuit. You will have a certain amount of time in which to respond to the lawsuit. Once that amount of time passes, the other side will move for something called a default judgment. The court will typically enter that against you, meaning the judge will enter a judgment against you for typically whatever the other side is asking for. Then the other side will try to collect that money from you. So the other side, meaning the plaintiff, may try to garnish your wages, may try to garnish your bank accounts, where they freeze the bank accounts and then the court takes the money out to pay the judgment. They may send you interrogatories, which are written questions that you have to answer about where your assets are. And if you ignore those interrogatories, you could be held in contempt of court, and the court can assess fines against you, or potentially, if it gets bad enough, even throw you in jail. So do not ignore your lawsuit. Now, if I've convinced you not to ignore the lawsuit, the next question is, okay, I've decided to do something. What do I do? Like I said, consult a lawyer and have the lawyer help you respond to the lawsuit. Can you do it yourself? Oftentimes you may be able to do it yourself, but it's extremely risky. You will want a lawyer to help you figure out the legal ramifications of everything you say in your response to the lawsuit. There are also times when you're not even allowed to represent yourself. For example, in Colorado, if the dispute is over $20,000, even if you are the sole owner of the company, you cannot represent the company in court because the company is something separate from you. So it would be like you representing another person in court. And if you are not a licensed attorney, you are not allowed to do that. All the more reason to consult a lawyer if you think you may have been sued. When you receive service of process of the lawsuit, there will be a few documents included in the packet. One is the complaint. This is the statement of the facts that are being alleged against you and the legal claims that are being made against you. So the plaintiff, meaning the other side, might say that you, the defendant, were negligent by not shoveling your sidewalk, and the plaintiff slipped and had a broken bone, and so those are the facts, and they have medical bills now, and the claim against you is negligence, premises liability. That's the type of thing that a complaint will say. The other document in the packet you received is called a summons, and that will say when you have to respond and where you have to respond. So it will say the name of the court where you have to file something. You may have to file your document in person. Maybe you'll be able to do it online. Again, consult a lawyer. They will know. But it will give you a certain time frame in which you have to file your response. In Colorado, it's typically 21 days for district court. It can be as little as 14 days for county court, so it just depends on the court and the state and the type of claim that's being made against you. But your number one job after receiving that packet is to make sure that you meet that deadline that's on the summons. That deadline on the summons is your most important date, and you need to make sure to file your response by that date. So what will your response say? Your response will say whether you admit or deny the factual allegations being made against you. It will say whether you admit or deny liability in the case. Do you really think you owe the plaintiff what the plaintiff says you owe them? It can often be fairly simple, depending on the type of court. There may be instructions in the packet of documents that you were served with. But again, the format is different for every court, so you really should consult a lawyer to help you prepare that response. Along with that response, you may be feeling like, hey, I have claims I want to assert against the plaintiff. Those are called counterclaims, and you typically include those with your response to the complaint. So your response would say, I deny everything they're saying against me, plus I'm asserting counterclaims against the plaintiff for something that they did to me and something that they owe me. You'll file those at the same time as your answer. Once you have filed your answer and potentially your counterclaims as well, the case is now what's called at issue. And that means you will proceed to the other steps of the lawsuit, which we'll talk about in the rest of this video series called So You're in a Lawsuit. Thanks for watching, and please remember to click like and subscribe to help keep legal education accessible for small business owners.